I'm back. I know I keep sneaking up on you guys. I never schedule these things. I just sort of pop up whatever I can whenever I have a few unsupervised minutes. And this is one of those times. It's like a good weather day, and I do have a few unsupervised minutes, so I thought I'd bring up this question that um, is getting a lot of attention right about now because we're talking about it in a way that we typically don't. So let's talk about it and see what you think. Why do you think that there are a lot of people who are having sex that they really don't want to have? Hey, Perry, thanks for coming in. Yeah, this question is coming up more and more frequently, and it is indeed even in my inbox more often than not. And in case you were wondering, marriage, marriage is no protection for this. What do I mean by that? I mean, there's a lot of married people having sex that they really don't want to have. Eve, thank you, sweetie. But yeah, it's as odd as it might seem to you, it is the fact of the matter. There's some really interesting research about reasons why that is. And in many cases, it all points back to one thing in particular about the way our society is set up. But first, I'll start with some of the more obvious ones. A lot of people are having sex that they don't really want to have because they're having sex with people they don't even like. But for whatever reason, they see that they can get some benefit from it if they endure it. So they think it's a price that they have to pay in order to get whatever it is they think they really do want. So they don't really want the sex, but they want something that they believe the sex can get them. And that applies to men and women, married and single. As do all of these things. They apply no matter what your relationship status is. There's also the issue of, this particularly pertains to women. Women are a lot less orgasmic than most men think they are, particularly through sex in and of itself. If women don't get extra attention, I'm trying to keep this Facebook friendly, if they don't get extra attention, typically, they're not as orgasmic as they often pretend to be. So while he might be under the impression that she was a lot more satisfied than she actually is, she is the one who knows the real deal. It is a lot easier for women to pretend than it is for men to pretend. That's just the anatomy of the situation. So there's that issue. Speaking of which, to expand a little bit further, typically depending on the positions used and how well the partners know each other's bodies, a straight, regular, vanilla, I'll call it that. The vanilla encounter is not typically very orgasm friendly. So it may still be pleasurable, however. So just because she isn't having an orgasm doesn't necessarily mean that she's not enjoying the encounter. But she will fake an orgasm if she believes that her partner's ego is on the line. That is a situation that many women find themselves in, that many women have put themselves into. But nonetheless, it is the situation that they live with. And they endure it because there are other things that are apparently more valuable to them than a satisfying sex life. Here is the one thing that pretty much gets overlooked, ignored, or neglected for men and for women, but for slightly different reasons. When we're children, when we're young children, we typically get all the attention, all the affection that we want. At least happy children. That's part of the reason why they're so happy. Because they get hugs and kisses and coos and cuddles pretty much everywhere they go, every time they turn around. And we really don't outgrow that desire. We just don't express it anymore. After we get to be a certain age, we are often denied simple affection. We're denied non-sexual affection from the communities that provided it for us when we were babies, when we were children, when we were very young. We had friends, we had family, we had schoolmates, we had teachers, we had coaches, we had all kinds of people. We had a network of people to reinforce us and encourage us with affection, with smiles, with hugs, with how you doings, with conversation, with closeness, with all of these things that let you know that you mattered to them, that your presence was important to them. All of those things, those little things that we never really paid that much attention to until they were gone, those things. And the older we got, the fewer of those things we had, the fewer of those places we had, particularly for boys. Boys are often denied affection very early on and encouraged to man up at 8 years old. They're expected to swallow their emotions and sit on them and not express them and act like they aren't there. And they're also cut off from a lot of the loving affection that they grew up with from everyone in their communities. For whatever reason, we have this idea that boys don't need affection, that boys don't require that kind of reinforcement, and we whittle their avenues for that down to a few areas, and then we get mad when they become emotionally disconnected. So for boys in particular, there are only a few places, there are only a few ways where they're actually allowed to be affectionate, where they are allowed to be touched, where they actually are encouraged to touch each other. There's only a few places where that's allowed, where it doesn't have some sort of a sexual connotation that might start a fight. And one of those places is sports. The military is another place like that, or when you work for an organization where your life is on the line. Police, fire, even the paramedics, all those people who have these really high stress, life and death sorts of jobs to do, they have that sort of a freedom because of the pressure that they're under. Sports, because they're fun and it's the one place that men are encouraged to let their testosterone free. they can have fun with it. You know, it's not criminalized and it's not weaponized against them. It's actually encouraged. And so when they're having fun, they touch each other. And it's not sexual, but it's one of the few places that they get to do that. But the only other way that they get this affection, that they get to be touched, is sexually. For women, it's a very parallel situation, although girl children are typically not denied affection. They're just not. A girl, an 8-year-old girl can run up to you and throw her arms around you and you'll hug her back. Or you'll pick her up, spin her around and let her know she's wonderful. If an 8-year-old boy does it, he gets side-eye. So girl children have a little more leeway in that respect. But once puberty hits, forget about it. The hammer gets dropped, and affection, non-sexual affection, is pretty much cut off. Unless she lives in a family that is already affectionate. If the family isn't affectionate as a rule, then once puberty hits, all bets are off. And it's not because she doesn't need the affection. I need you to hear this, fellas, especially fellas, because I know, I get it. A lot of times you guys don't know when it's okay to touch women. I understand that. I really do. But in your family situations, I just want you to know, especially you fathers that are listening, your daughter is never going to outgrow her need for your affection. I need you to know that. I really need you to know that. I don't care if she's a fully formed adult with children of her own. She still needs you to show up in her world with your S on your chest and your arms open and a smile on your face to let her know that she is still your little girl. She's never gonna outgrow it. No matter how she talks about it, no matter how much she acts like it's she's bothered by it, she's not bothered by it. She needs that reinforcement from you. She really does. And also, for a lot of women, because we get cut off from non-sexual affection at puberty, we also get another message coming in right around the same time, that sex is the price that we have to pay in order to be touched. That's the message we get. And it gets reinforced throughout society. That no man is going to want to be close to you, no man is going to want to get near you unless there is the promise of sex on the other side of it. No man is going to do that. No man is simply going to touch you just because you need to be touched. They're not going to hold you just because you need to be held. They are going to require that sex be at least on the table. If it doesn't happen in that instance, then there has to be the possibility of it down the road, or it doesn't make sense for him to even approach you. And in fairness, men aren't allowed that leeway with girls anyway. They're cut off from their own affection so early that many of them lose touch with their own need for affection. And so when these two deprived people get together sexually, we end up with the madness that we have today. Everybody's trying to get something else from the encounter than what they pretend to actually want. And it's easier to focus on an orgasm because it's a goal that's easy to reach and it's definable and you can tell whether you did it or not. But all that other stuff, do they love me? Do they really care about what matters to me? Do I matter to them? Is this all just to get sex? Or is it an expression of connection and concern? All of those questions, they're all questions. When you're in the act, they're all questions. And especially when you're under the influence of your own arousal, your brain is scrambled anyway and nothing's coming through the way it actually is. Because you're too distracted by your own sensations. And it's difficult to be logical in that position. So a lot of us are having sex that we don't want to have because it's the only way we can get the affection that we do want. If we make room in our relationships for affection, then the sex that we do have is going to be better for both of us. But we have to be honest. We have to be honest about why we're connecting with each other. We have to be honest that we need each other. We have to stop fighting our need for each other. We have to back off of this idea that admitting our need for each other is somehow a weakness. Our need for each other is built into us. We didn't ask for it, and we can't take it away. It's primal, it's instinctive, and just because you don't do anything about it doesn't mean it goes away, doesn't mean it goes anywhere. Just because you ignore it doesn't make it disappear. It will just fester and show up somewhere else where it comes back to hurt you or somebody that you do love. Allow space in your life. Make space in your life for loving touch, for the people who matter to you. And even for people who might be on the periphery of your life. They might be on the outside of your life, but you know what? They need affection too. They need connection too. That is a human trait. It's a human need to be connected. We desire community because it is built into us. Nobody asked us. It's just built in. So don't deny it. Just find healthy ways to express it. Find healthy ways to include it into your life, particularly if you're single. I know this can get tricky, especially when you're single. One way to do it consistently is massage. I know a lot of people see massage as a luxury, but massage is medicinal when it's done correctly. When it's done by someone who is actually trained in the art, massage is medicinal. So that's one way that you can include it in your life, definitely. Even if it's only on a monthly basis. Do what you can to make sure that you get it into your life professionally. And if you have a special someone in your life, include it in the way you connect with each other. Teach each other how you like to be touched. Focus on more than your sexual parts, and you will discover that your entire body responds to touch, and not just the parts that are hidden by your underwear. That you can give and receive pleasure all over your body. That you can connect and reconnect with your entire body. It is something that you have to put effort into, though. You have to focus on it. Maybe it's new for you, that's okay. It might feel clumsy to you, that's okay. Just like anything else you do new, it's not going to be comfortable. That's okay. Do it again. And you'll get the hang of it. But keep the lines of communication open. And many times, something else that you have to be aware of is that your partner may not know how to say what it is they need, but their bodies will let you know. Pay attention to their responses, to the way you touch them, or the way you don't touch them. Pay attention to their responses, because their bodies are always going to be in alignment with whatever is going on in their subconscious. And their subconscious mind is what's driving what they do. It's what determines their behavior. It's not their logical mind. It's not the prefrontal cortex. That's a $20 word for your logical mind.